next guest is Egyptian-American Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Dr. Hefny, welcome to WOL Radio.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How are you?
We're doing great, and I'm sure you've been hearing the discussions about Muslim, and I'm sure you have some thoughts about some of the callers have been saying to you when you were on hold discussing the differences about Islam. Well, before we get to that, though, you're an Egyptian American, and they tell me that you're fighting to be declared an African or a Black American.
Yes.
What's going on here? So it sounds confusing.
I am an Egyptian Nubian. The Nubians are the black people that live in the south of Egypt and the north of Sudan. Nubia used to be an independent kingdom between Egypt and Sudan, and then it was divided between these two countries. All Nubians are black people, and all Nubians are black people. But the Office of Management and Budget, Directive number 15 of the Office of Management and Budget, classifies Sudanese Nubians as blacks and Egyptian Nubians as whites. When I came to this country and became a U.S. citizen, I went for a test in government and language to get my citizenship. After I passed the test, the interviewer told me he was white. He said, "Congratulations, Mr. Hefny, you are now a U.S. citizen and you are now white." I said, "What? I have been black my entire life." I said, "No, from now on you are white. From now on, once you get a form asking about your race, indicate that you are white." Okay?
Wow. I didn't know they did that. So when you sign up for a citizenship, they tell you but looking at you, because I've seen your picture, you're black, straight up. There's no question.
Black,
I mean,
yes.
There's no doubt about that. You're a black man. And he told you that you were white?
Yes, yes.
Hold that thought right there, because we have a news report. Wow, I got to digest this over the news. Folks, you can join our conversation with Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Said the United States declared him as a white person and when he decided to become an American citizen. What are your thoughts? Your calls next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. With Dr. Mostafa Hefny, he's an Egyptian American. And before we left for the news, Dr. Hefny, you said you became a naturalized American citizen. And
Correct.
after the, I guess the naturalization process, the service or whatever, they shook your hand, welcomed you to the United States and said, you are now white? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Correct.
And folks, if you're on a computer,
Not
just Google his name and you'll see his picture, because this is what's remarkable. This is a black man. I mean, it's not a brother, a real light-skinned, melanin challenged brother. This is a black man, and he told you you're white. So how did you feel when he told you you're now white?
I felt violated. I felt insulted and violated because I am proud of being black. Not only that I'm a black man, I'm an Afrocentric black nationalist. To call me a white man is an insult. Is an insult and a violation. I felt violated. But not only that, Mr. Nelson, I was fired 5 times because I stated on my employment records that I'm white, that I'm black. And this is the story. I was working as a bilingual resource teacher for Wayne County Regional Education Service Agency. The short is Wayne County RESA in Wayne, Michigan. And I worked there for 13 years. In 1987, we received a form called Race Ethnic Identification Card. We were supposed to indicate our race on it. I indicated that I am black. The Director of Human Resources sent me a letter threatening me that my education career would be ruined if I did not change my classification from black to white. Okay? She told me that I'm white, not black. And she threatened me that my education career would be ruined if I did not change it back to white. I did not do it. So, Initial S, one of the most powerful leaders of Wayne County RESA and one of the most powerful men in Michigan, because of his high-level connections that sit on the federal level, called me to his office and told me, if you ever say you're black again, no one will hire you, and if hired, you'll be running from one job to the other for the rest of your life. And this is exactly what happened to me. They did not fire me, but they denied me promotions twice. They persecuted me. They harassed me. They called me nigger. It's a white school district, okay? And I was the only black, or there are very few blacks in this organization. Anyway, they persecuted me to the point that I left on Social Security psychiatric disability, which lasted 10 years. After I recovered and went back into the workforce, Wayne Count, Teresa, and Michelle S. followed up on their threats, and I was fired 5 times in 1 year. 5 times in 1 year.
All because you were fired, all because you would not, this is a sort of thing from Kunta Kinte, because you wouldn't say that you were white?
Exactly. Because Wayne Count, Teresa told me to say that I'm white, and I refused.
Well, let's go back to the beginning, though. The State Department. Is this a State Department edict that the Nubians, that Egyptians are classified as white? All Egyptians are classified as white when they become American citizens?
This is Directive number 15 of the Office of Management and Budget. It states what races are. It classifies races. It classifies people by race. I'm sorry. It classifies people by race. Directive number 15 of the Office of Management and Budget. And a white person is any person from European, North American, or Middle Eastern countries. Okay? And black person, any person from the people of sub-Saharan Africa.
So they don't see Egypt as part of Africa.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Especially Nubians. They're not part of Africa. No.
You know, and I'll say this. I went to Egypt with Renoka Rashidi, and we went to Cairo and we was looking for Nubians. We didn't find any Nubians till we went to Aswan. Is that where most of the Nubians live?
Correct. In Aswan and a little bit to the north of Aswan.
Right.
Yes.
But why are they so adamant that they want you to declare yourself? Because you look at you, if anybody, they treat you as a black man anyway. Before you open your mouth, they're going to treat you as a black person. Why do they want you to declare yourself white? That just doesn't seem right.
The bottom line is they want to steal our civilization. They want to increase their numbers, by the way. They want to increase their numbers, but the bottom line is they want to steal our civilization. There are wars in academia between black scholars and white scholars over ancient Egypt and Nubia. Are they blacks or whites? Whether the Nubian civilization and the ancient Egyptian civilizations are black civilizations or white civilizations. Okay? So the government is helping the white scholars in this debate by classifying Egyptian Nubians as whites. By the way, Seligman, Sergi, Elliot Smith, and Coon stated in their books that Nubians are Nubians are a branch of the white race.
Why are they so bent? You mentioned about the schools, and I guess it's a numbers thing, and we follow the numbers. There's always money at the end. But why is people so bent on declaring that Nubians, which we know are brothers from Egypt, why do they want to declare them black? Declare them white. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused too.
The ideology of white supremacy and black inferiority developed in the last quarter of the 17th century. Okay? And the reason for that, the reason it developed was the slave holders, the slave owners, the slave masters were Christian. And they were not feeling right about treating blacks like this. So they came up with an idea. If they dehumanize blacks and make them like animals, it would be okay for them to treat them like this on the plantations. Okay? So they came up with the hard version of white supremacy and black inferiority, which states that the black man doesn't have a soul, the black man has a tail, the black man is one link above the ape. Okay? This is the hard version of white supremacy and black inferiority. And then it softened up later on in the 19th century and the 20th century and the 21st century, and it became that the black man is intellectually and culturally and morally inferior to the white man. Okay? So anyway, when they came up with this ideology in the last quarter of the 17th century, they were faced with a contradiction or a dilemma. The dilemma was that the ancient Greek and Roman scholars have stated in their books that the ancient Egyptians, that the Nubians are blacks. So how can they deal with this? It's a contradiction now. So they had to rewrite history. So from now on, from the last quarter of the 17th century on, Egypt, Nubia, Ethiopia became white. Only then, not before. Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia. All of them who have developed civilizations in Africa have to be made white. And this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened.
14 away from the top of the hour. 800-450-7876 to speak to Dr. Hefny. Let's go to line 1. KO's in D.C. KO, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
World's greatest talk show. I told you. Look at here. Hey, brother, we so happy to hear from you. And you just, the first wave is going to be more and more. And our people here in America are going to realize about the difference between Nubian. So the Muslims going to learn Islam from the Nubian Muslim and the Arabic, and they're going to realize.
All right. Hold that thought right there, KO, because we've got to step aside for announcements, and I'll let you finish up your question for Dr. Hefny. Folks, you two can get in on this conversation. This man is black, I'm telling you. Look him up on the internet, you'll see he's a black man, and they told him he's got to declare himself as white. What would you do? 800-450-7876. Your call's next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. His name is Dr. Mostafa Hefny. And we heard his story. He says he came here and became a naturalized American citizen, and he was told immediately after he was sworn in that welcome to America, and now you're white and you should declare yourself as white. And you heard his story. He's lost about 5 jobs in 1 year just because he wouldn't declare himself as white. He's African. He's black. Physically, you look at him, he's a black man. Let's go back to line 1. KO in D.C. KO, your thoughts.
Okay, so yeah, yes, sir. Good doctor, you're leading the charge, because there are thousands of people like you in America, been here since the early 1900s, that were scared to death to admit that they was told by this government that they got to be white and they're not to associate with black people. You're not to associate with them. You're not to interact with them. So that's how you can have a whole Michigan or Detroit full of full of Muslims who never interact with the black people. So now we understand why America, this country, had to give birth to its own Muslim, this so-called Nation of Islam. Even with its faults, even with whatever things we can find wrong, it belongs to you, African American. It is yours. It ain't from over there, because the enemy wanted to make sure that your people over there didn't connect with you over here. So the Most High is necessary that you get it from your own right here. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to decency and morality, okay, the Nation of Islam have exemplified that since 1930 to now. You ain't gonna see no pretty legs and no nothing. Okay. So no drinking, no liquor. So we
Kale, a bunch of calls want to reach him. So do us a favor, put in a question for him so he can respond.
Okay, but now the others got to be courageous like you, doctor, and tell the truth. That from the early 1900s, they've not been allowed to identify with us here.
Let me tell you what happened at my place of work when I was working before I left. In 1987, I was invited to speak as a panelist at a function sponsored by the Association of Afro-American Life and History. I spoke and I said that I am a member of 2 groups, black in terms of race and Arabic in terms of culture and national origin. And I'm proud of being black. At work, because this function was attended by many educators, at work, a white consultant told me that he met Initial S. Initial S is the top administrator that I was telling you about, and that we know what you said at this function. If you don't keep your mouth shut, your education career will be over. And he added that you have a history and a culture. These people came from the jungle. They lie and steal.
Hang on a second, Kale. Let him finish.
In my neighborhood, I call the police. He added that.
Go ahead, Doc.
Hello?
Doc, you still there, Doctor?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
What did they say? You explained to us. I got lines across it.
You have a history and a culture. These people came from the jungle. They lie and steal. And when I see one of them in my neighborhood, I call the police. He lived in the white suburb of Livonia at this time, this consultant. And he was giving me a message from Initial S, one of the top administrators.
Repeat that, what he said about us again.
He said, I met Initial S, and he mentioned the name of one of the top administrators, okay? He was letting me know that this message is from Initial S. He said, I met Initial S. We know what you said in this function. If you don't keep your mouth shut, your education career will be over. You have a history and a culture. These people came from the jungle. They lie and steal. And when I see one of them in my neighborhood, I call the police. This consultant lived in the white suburb of Livonia at this time.
Wow.
Yes. I wrote a memo to him, and I copied to Initial S, and I got it back. They gave it back to me and said, you were told to keep your mouth shut, and you did not. Your education career is over.
And these people come from the jungle, and they lie and steal. So what year are we talking about? This man described
87.
us like that.
87.
1987.
When all this started. The fight for me to be classified as a black person, not white, started in 1987. 87. I got my citizenship, and this is what happened at the interview when I told you about. This was 85, and this is in 87.
Wow.
At my place of work.
Hang on a second. We got a bunch of folks who want to speak to you, Dr. Hefny. 800-450-7876. And folks, what would you do? Let's go line 5. Chris is a first-time caller. He's joined us from Decatur, Georgia. Chris, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
Yes. I don't really have a question. I just have a explanation of why. I understand why they told the brother to classify himself as white, simply because he's basically from Egypt. And he's born in Egypt, and then he came into the Americas, and now he calls himself an American or Egypt American. We're basically born in America, which makes us American. The black and white game is basically being played. The reason why they wanted him to classify himself as white is because of the status. I mean, we use black as identifying, but they use white as power. So they know that, hey, you're not like these people here, even though you look just like them, and even though y'all got the same blood. You from over there, they already over here, so they're black, but you are a white guy, and that is the reason why they told him to check that white. It's all about status and about privilege.
Interesting. I'm just wondering how many other folks have they said that to, and how many people internalize that. Foreigners, when they come here, who are black, who are crystal black, as Dr. Welsing says, and they believe that they're white.
Yeah, the Middle East people have to check it. The application for the post office, it says it has black or African, and then it has just white, and then it has, if you're Middle East, check. It says Middle East, check white. Middle East people, that's coming out of Africa. Tell them to check white on the post office application.
Wow, this is incredible. I did not know that. Chris, thanks for calling.
North Africa, directive number 15 classifies anybody from North Africa or the Middle East as white. And as an Egyptian, I was classified as white according to this definition.
So it's got nothing to do with they don't want you to identify with us blacks in America. It's all about numbers. Is that what you're trying to say?
Me? No. I'm saying that it's not only the numbers. They're trying to steal our civilization, Mr. Nelson. They're trying to steal our civilization. I told you about the ideology of white supremacy and black inferiority, and how it was faced with a contradiction that the ancient Greek and Roman scholars stated in their books that the ancient Egyptians and the Nubians are blacks, and they had to resolve this contradiction, and they had to rewrite history to resolve this contradiction. Okay? And they had to whiten ancient Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia to resolve this contradiction. And this is what they did.
Yeah, well, good luck trying to whitewash Ethiopia. 800-450-7876. Interesting conversation here with Dr. Hefny. Let's go to line 2. Sylvia's joining us from Palm Springs, California. Sylvia?
Good morning, Carl, and your guests and family. My first husband was Mexican, and we had all my friends back during then was Mexican. This was in the 60s. And I went over to some friend's house one day. All my friends were Mexican back then because my husband was Mexican. And I walked in the house, and they were all excited. They told me, they said, "We ain't Mexican no more. We is Caucasians now." And we were all laughing, and they had gone to the motor vehicle to get their driver's
Hold that story right there, Sylvia. We got to step aside for a traffic report. When we come back, I want to hear this story, folks. I'm sure the listeners do as well. 800-450-7876. We're talking about race with our guest, Egyptian-American Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Says he's been fighting to be cleared black, and he is black physically, but they say he's white. What are your thoughts?
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show
on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. Speaking with Egyptian-American Dr. Mostafa Hefny. He's telling us his fight to be classified as a black man, as a black person. Physically, if you see him on the street, he's a black person. But he's saying this when he got was a naturalized American citizen, they told him that he was white. And whenever he's on the job, trying to get a job in academia where he works, they also tell him that he's white, and they tell him some very derogative things about African Americans and why he should be
Box Girls teaches young women
your thoughts?
to believe in themselves.
800-450-7876. Let's go to line
become
1. Let's
strong,
go to London, England.
not only in boxing, but in life.
I want to add something.
People believe
hang
that
on a second,
boxing
Ricky.
is
Go
not a
ahead.
game for girls.
I am currently
Our message is
organizing
always,
hundreds
yes,
of
we can.
Egyptian Nubians so we can file a class action lawsuit against the government to have our racial classification changed from whites to blacks. And
In
we're
2008,
going to hire the best
leadership and also to teach them their rights.
In this case.
box girls try to break the gender stereotype that certain things are supposed to be for male and female.
Powerful and good.
My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a professional boxer and I work with Box Girls Kenya. I found two girls doing their own things, despite.
Who is powerful and good, we can hire him instead of Mr. Feiger in Michigan.
Right, they do have an attorney. Sister Ava Muhammad is one of the best attorneys in the world, and she's the official attorney.
What's her name again?
Sister Ava Muhammad.
Ava Muhammad?
Yes.
Okay.
She's a brilliant attorney, and she's a member of the Nation of Islam, and she works closely with Minister Farrakhan. So when you may want to go that route and talk to her. Because I know that the attorney that you're talking about, he was the one involved in the guy who wanted to commit the murders, right? I forgot his name. Yeah. But anyway, 800-450-7876, line 1. Let's go over the pond to London. Ricky's waiting for us in London. Ricky, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
Yes, Dr. Hefny. Greetings to you from the ancestors as well. Blessing from the ancestors as well. Blessings and peace to you. Right now, I'm in London, and right now I'm noticing that Cameron, for want of a better word, the so-called prime minister over here, or rather the puppet, he's totally dismissed reparations for the African man and woman. Now the thing is, it's funny that you mentioned what you just mentioned, because it looks like the Roman Empire is still alive. One thing that they used to do is, apart from all the pillaging and the conquering, what they were doing, they also gave the opportunity to individuals to obviously assimilate and join the Roman Empire. So it looks like the Americans are basically forcing you to say what they want you to say, to have an induction to become an American.
Ricky, let me ask you: is that the same requirement in the UK if you want to become a British subject citizen, that you have to swear to be white as well? Do you know?
Well, so far, no. But in saying that, all I notice is that it's becoming very, very, what I would call, you have to learn a lot of the British customs, traditions, this, that, and the other. Whereas before, you just basically waited for your turn to, get your passport or whatever. So, but I noticed a lot of the customs and the so-called culture, cultural stuff that they want you to learn is basically very white or European orientated. It's very white European
right,
orientated.
and in defense of them, they'll probably say that this is a white country. I'm referring to the UK now. This is a white country, so you should learn our customs and our culture.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, obviously, as you know and as we know, they're doing things on a very sly basis. I find in England, white men speak with forked tongue. it's still going on. You know, they subtly use terminology to make you or to push you in so-called a very Eurocentric theology, and basically, negate, basically black culture, globally black culture, But I think this is a clear case of them trying to I don't think it's just a matter of stats. Because I think, when you're in America, it's like they can manipulate the stats whether you're in America or not. They manipulate that, and they control that through lots of different things like white supremacy, et cetera, different groups. But what I think this is also about is that legally, if Cameron has denied reparations in England and not even wants to look at it, I think this is, we know that if we make a legal stand for reparations, then what's going to happen is that if America can prove that the majority of people in America are white, then they're not going to they will do the same as Cameron did, and they totally dismiss even the question about reparations.
Right, and that's another discussion of the road. We want to have that discussion pretty soon about reparations. And Cameron, he refers to as David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the UK. Ricky, thank you for your call. Dr. Hefny, do you agree with what Ricky was saying, that this is a global movement?
I wasn't paying attention, to be honest with you, because I have back pain.
Okay, well, I'll take another call for you then. 800-450-7876 at 9 after the hour. Let's go to Archie. Archie's on line 4. He's calling us from Washington, D.C. Archie, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
Hello. I got two quick things I wanted to mention, and to ask him, was he familiar with the first thing I wanted to say, which is, I believe it was in the late 60s, early 70s, in Jet magazine, I believe this situation was a little different, where the guy went to the U.S. Supreme Court to keep from being black, and he was also a very dark-skinned man.
What nationality was he? African American?
No, he came from Egypt, and
wow.
Unless it's the other way around, he was black, but went to the Supreme Court and was declared to be white. And they had his picture in the magazine, Jet magazine.
Well, let me ask Dr. Hefny this. Dr. Hefny, are you prepared to go all the way to fight this to the Supreme Court?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I am willing to lay down my life for the cause of black racial pride and the cause of restoring the Nubian civilization to the black race. I have lost everything already. I've lost my house. I've lost my car. I've lost my career. I filed for bankruptcy. I have nothing. I have nothing but these two causes: black racial pride and restoring the Nubian civilization to the black race.
Well, let me make a comment quick.
By the way, I want to get even 5 minutes at the 1 million man march. I want to speak for at least 5 minutes. If someone can help me with this, I would appreciate it. Mr. Nelson, if you can help me, I would appreciate it.
All right, well, we'll give you some numbers to call after the show. Please. Go ahead, Archie.
Can I make another quickie?
Sure,
Yes,
go ahead.
Okay, the other thing is, probably for at least about the last 20 years, when you fill out these applications for the job, they tell you it's voluntary. Now, maybe it was different a long time ago or a longer time ago, but at least lately, you don't have to, it's considered voluntary when you fill out these forms about your race.
Was it required, Dr. Hefny?
Maybe a long time ago it was.
I don't remember. I have to indicate my race on the applications, yes. I wrote I'm black.
All right, Archie, thank you for your call.
I indicated that I'm black.
Right. Archie, we get it. Thank you for your call. We got to step aside because we have a traffic update coming for our folks in the DMV. 800-450-7876. We're 12 minutes after the top of the hour. Take your phone calls for Dr. Mostafa Hefny after this traffic and weather update on
Real talk radio in the AM. Carl Nelson on 1450 WOL.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Dr. Mostafa Hefny. He's an Egyptian American, and he's been fighting to be classified as a black person in America. He's black physically. You look at him, you say, "Hey, it's a brother." Got a fro. His last picture I saw, and he's black. I mean, it looked like a cousin. But they're telling him because he's Egyptian that he should be white, and he's been fighting this, and it's been a major problem for him because he's lost a lot of teaching positions because he refuses to classify himself as a white person. What are your thoughts? 800-450-7876. Let's go to line 1. Gilda, a first-time caller, is calling us from Longview, I'm sorry, in Maryland. Gilda?
Yes. I wasn't surprised when I heard him say what he did because it was about 17 of us that went to Egypt about, I can't think of how long ago it is. I'm 86 years old. Yeah. And we went with a guy named Tony Browder. You probably know him. And there were 17 of us that went there. And when we start mingling with the so-called Egyptians, these were nothing but, what do you call it?
Arabs?
Arabs, yeah. These were nothing but Arabs. So they say, well, why you all come over here to take your country back? I said, no, we're trying to learn about the history. So when we went to the temples and all, and they couldn't believe that we knew as much as we did about Egypt because we had we had to study before we went there. So we went up the Nile. We found some people. Guy had a boat, and we went up the Nile and to Nubian. And we wanted to adopt them, because they were so nice to us. I mean, they treat us like royalty. So we tried to give them money, but they wouldn't take American money because they said they'd get in trouble. But if we, change our money to Egyptian money, then they would take it. But I never knew there was so much segregation, and I was really surprised when we got to Egypt. So when I started reading about the history of them and everything, and I said I couldn't believe that they were trying to, the Americans, what they're doing is trying to whiten up the world because the world is mostly made of people of color.
Correct, ma'am.
All right, Gilda, thank you for that. And let me ask Dr. Hefny to explain. If you go to Cairo today, as Gilda just said, most of the people you're going to see are Arabs. What happened to our forefathers? Where are they? Is everybody in Aswan?
What happened was Egypt was conquered by the Greeks, and the Greeks had a policy of assimilation. They conquered a lot of land worldwide, and they want to have a tight grip on the land. So they had a policy of assimilation. The soldiers were encouraged to marry the local women, and this happened in Egypt at a large scale. So you ended up with a group of people who are not as white as Greeks and who are not blacks as ancient Egyptians. Okay. And, yes, this is what happened, yes. And when the Romans came, they did the same thing, assimilation, the Romans. So you ended up with a population which is half European, half black, which is the black from ancient Egyptians and the European side from the Greeks and the Romans. Okay? And these are the Copts of today. Because when Christianity came to Egypt, all Egyptians converted to Christianity, and they developed the Coptic Church, which follows Apostle Mark. Okay, and then when the Arabs came, they converted everybody to Islam except for the Copts who had money, who were able to pay the high tax called jizya. The high tax called jizya, they were able to pay, so they did not convert. This is what happened.
Oh my goodness! I couldn't believe what was going on there.
Egypt. Yes, this is what happened to the black people of ancient Egypt. Yes.
Because when they met the Arabs, when they saw us, 17 of us. They asked her, "What do you come? You came over here to get your country back?" And with that little laugh they had behind it, little and I said, something's going on here. So when Dr. Ben came over, he gave us a lecture and we found out what was going on. But I felt really close to the Nubians because when we went up the Nile, they were very pleasant people, but they were afraid to take any, to be too close to us because.
What year was this, ma'am? What year?
Oh my goodness, it's been at least, I would say maybe about 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
And
so is that correct? The Nubians, because I've been to Aswan and been with the Nubians. Were they afraid to talk to African Americans or black people?
Yes.
Let me ask Dr. Hefny that. Dr. Hefny, is that true that your brothers and sisters?
So they're not afraid. They like African Americans. They like black people. They know that they belong to the same group of people. They know that they belong to the same race. Okay, they're not afraid to talk to them. But at this time, handling foreign currency was illegal, so they would not take dollars from them.
He did explain to us that they couldn't.
It was illegal to handle foreign currency.
Egyptian.
All right, let me ask you this, and Gilda, thank you for your call. Dr. Hefny, the people that we see in Cairo, when you go to Egypt, are they Arabs? Where are their descendants from?
Arabs.
From where?
The conquerors of Egypt, from Saudi Arabia and Yemen and southwest Iraq and southeast Syria. Arabs. They conquered.
Do they consider themselves white or black?
They don't care, really. They really don't care. They consider themselves Arabs, but when they come to this country and the government says that you're white, they are happy to be part of the mainstream, part of the majority, I'm sorry. They are happy to be part of the majority.
Wow. 800-450-7876, 23 after the hour. Let's go to line 6. Bo's joined us from New York City. Bo?
Yes, good morning, Carl. And great guest. Appreciate you having him on. I just got a quick question after my comment. Hey, doctor, did you know that India, from India, the Indians also consider themselves Caucasian, white, and when they come over here, they become, they increase their numbers here for white. The numbers of white.
Okay.
The population of whites, right?
Now, Bo, is this for black Indians as well? Because there are some fair-skinned Indians, but there are some real dark-skinned Indians as well.
All of them, especially the black, right? And they do consider themselves Caucasian. Hey, doctor, did you know that the racism was first, I learned that racism was first practiced in India. It was first practiced there. That racism was first practiced, the first
racism?
Case of race, was first practiced in India, right?
Okay.
And African Americans in America, right? They, not all of us, but a lot of us. Unfortunately, we have given our minds to white people. We have a problem thinking for ourselves. A lot of us, a lot of our men and women, and you don't. So you're white. They don't want that. They don't want anybody to bother that. The black man in America.
You're absolutely right about this, and I will tell you why. I was scheduled to speak in Chicago, and my attorney was white, and he was betraying me.
Wait, hold that thought right there, Dr. Hefny. I'll let you tell your story about what happened to you in Chicago on the other side of this break. Well, thank you for your call. 800-450-7876. You too can join the conversation. Take your phone calls after this short break on 1450 WOL, where information is power.
radio in the AM.
The #1 morning show. #1 on everybody's list.
Carl Nelson on 1450 WOL.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. It's 28 after the hour. Our guest is Dr. Mostafa Hefny. He's an Egyptian American, and when he came here, they told him he's got to be classified as white. He's black. He's a Nubian from the south part of Egypt, and he's upset about that, and he's been fighting ever since. As he mentioned, it's cost him several jobs, cost him 5 jobs in 1 year. You would think somebody would say, okay, I'm giving up, I'm not going to fight this, but he's a proud black man, and he's continuing to fight. Dr. Hefny, tell us about what you said. You were going to Chicago with your attorney?
Yes, I had a white attorney. He is one of the best attorneys in Michigan, by the way. Okay, and he's white, and he was working with the other side. He was working with my school district against me. So I told him that I was invited to speak in Chicago. A few days later, it looks like he told my former employer. So my former employer sent me a postcard, not signed, not without any return address. The postcard read, "The sun will shine on the world tomorrow because you think like a white man." Do you believe that?
Right. Why are they so obsessed to? They want you to think white. What is? I mean, why do they want you? Of all the people, they want you to be, to adopt this white ideology.
They are racist. They are racist. This is the bottom line. They are racist.
All right. 800-450-7876. Some folks want to speak to you. I just want to remind you, folks, you can download the mobile app. It's free. Just go to the App Store. It's WOL 1450, and you can take it anywhere in the world with you. Also, you can get the podcast at WOLDCnews.com. If you miss a show or something, or you want to hear it again, just go to WOLDCnews.com, and under the podcast, you can hear all the other shows that we've had in the past. 800-450-7876. Let's go to line 1. Jeff is joining us from D.C. Jeff? Jeff, you can't listen on the air because we have a delay system. I'll tell you what, we'll put you on hold. We'll come back to you in a minute. You got to listen on the phone. Let's go to line 2. Let's go to Charles. Charles is in Chicago. Charles?
Thank you very much, Carl, for taking my call. Boy, I am so happy, Carl, what you've done to facilitate getting this brother on. And as I said, you always do an excellent job. You have to use, and that would be an understatement. And I wanted to say to Mr. Hefny that my DNA, after coming back from Egypt, my wife and I did our DNA, and my DNA comes straight out of Egypt, Upper Egypt. And I was really dumbfounded. And then I did it again, and it was the same thing with the results.
Wow. Wow.
So I was really surprised but proud at the same time. But it shows that connection there to the east side of Egypt, there through Egypt coming down the Nile into Fort Jesus. My theory is, because I had a cousin.
Coming down the Nile, what?
The Nile, as it comes down the Nile, it goes into Kenya, into Mombasa, Kenya, where you have Fort Jesus, where they had all the slaves at on the east side, on that side of Africa. And I had a cousin come out of Kenya. And his bloodline was right there in the Nile Valley, like mine. I thought that was interesting. So I thought that was that connection with Fort Jesus. But as we were in Egypt with Sunu Ashra Kwesi, Egyptian walked up, the Arab Egyptian walked up to my wife and said, "Welcome to my country." So my wife turned around and said to him, "No, I'm at home. This is my country. You're the invader."
They don't like to hear that. They don't like that.
No, he didn't like that, so he walked away after my wife said it. I guess he was surprised we knew our history, you know what I mean? So, Dr. Good for you. So I just wanted to know that was that connection. And I was trying to get a hold of you some time ago to connect with how you get with the bloodline showing that. I want to know how you become citizens there in Egypt now, since the bloodline proves it. But I went to the consulate in Egypt, here in Chicago, and I called, and they sort of refused me that privilege, you know what I mean, to be able to do that. But I thank you, Dr. Hefny, for being on, and I'm
You're welcome.
Strong with you in the struggle. Please stay strong. And thank you, Carl, again for having this, because I've been trying to get a hold of this brother,
All right, we'll give his information before we let him go. Thanks, Charles. Thanks for your call. 800-450-7876. Go to line 1. Jeff's joined us. Let's see if Jeff's ready for us in D.C. Jeff?
Hello.
No, Jeff, are you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yes, well, I want to ask the professors that, what about Anwar Sadat, the president of Egypt at the time? Did he have problems with that situation, or did he consider himself white also? Was he a Nubian?
He's a Nubian. He's black, and when he came to this country for the first time, he addressed the Black Congressional Caucus, and he told them that I'm a black man, and they applauded him.
And that's when his problems began.
He's proud of being black, yes.
But after he said he was a black man, that's when he had problems.
Yes, sir. He did. That's correct. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for bringing that up. Anwar Sadat, yes, did say he was a black man. He was a Nubian. And then a lot of African Americans didn't understand what Nubian was. That's when they first heard about Nubia, when Anwar Sadat addressed the Congressional Black Caucus. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
I remember that incident.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for bringing that up. 26 away from the top of the hour. 800-450-7876. Let's go to line 4. Tony's also in D.C. Tony, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
Hey, good morning, Carl.
Good morning, sir.
Hello, Carl. Oh, hey. I just wanted to concur with the doctor that my belief is that once you started telling that lie that all those people from that part of the world are white, well, quite naturally you got to keep it going. Well, or you can't quit now. And my belief personally is that once the Zionists decided they were going to start writing U.S. foreign policy back in 1948, and they're saying that they're from that part of the world, because I've had arguments with Zionists who are Ashkenazi Jews who claim that religion, who don't understand that they converted, who say that they are the original Hebrews and they're from that part of the world. Well, yeah, it makes sense that they got to lie about the way those people look, because those people don't look like they're from Europe. They're from Northern Europe somewhere. They're African. Those are African.
They are not the original Jews.
Exactly. Thank you, doctor. That's what I wanted to get out.
They are not the original Jews. They're Europeans
who converted to Judaism.
Exactly.
Thank you, doctor. You guys.
All right, Tony. Thank you, Carl. Let me ask Dr. Hefny this. Do you think part of your problem is because the way they carved up the African continent and cut out that part of Northern Africa and called it the Middle East? Do you think that's where some of your problems stem from?
What's that again, Mr. Nelson?
I said when they carved up Africa, they cut out the northern part of Africa and called it the Middle East. Is that where your problems stem from? Because they figure if you're in the Middle East, you're not African.
No, I think my problem stems from the emergence of the ideology of white supremacy and black inferiority. Because the ancient Greek and Roman scholars stated in their books that the ancient Egyptians and the Nubians are blacks. And it was not disputed until the rise of white supremacy and black inferiority. It was not disputed that they were blacks until then. So the problem starts with the rise of the ideology of white supremacy and black inferiority. When history had to be rewritten and all black people had to be whitewashed. This is when the problem started.
All right, and let me ask you this: the Nubians back in Egypt, do they understand that if they come to the United States, that they are classified as white?
No, they don't.
So
happen? The Nubians in Egypt are suppressed, by the way. The Nubians are suppressed. The government does not want them to have any feeling of nationalism, any feeling of black pride, because they're afraid that they will secede at any time in the future. Okay?
So were they suppressed when Anwar Sadat was president?
Not to the same extent.
Now, did he declare himself Nubian, or did he say I am black when he was in Egypt, or just he did it when he came to the States?
Just when he came to the States. That's a good point, by the way. That's a very good point. Just when he came to the States, because he didn't want to offend the majority. The majority are Arabs. Okay? And they voted for him. So he did not want to alienate them.
All right, hold that thought right there, Dr. Hefny. 800-450-7876. You too can get in on the discussion with Dr. Mostafa Hefny as you're trying to be.
Your voice can now be heard.
Y'all ready?
Yeah. With Carl Nelson weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on 1450 WOL.
And thank you for rolling with us this morning, folks. Our guest, Dr. Mostafa Hefny. He's an Egyptian American, and when he came here, they told him he was classified as white. He's black. I mean, physically, you look at him, and if he doesn't open his mouth, he just look like one of your cousins. He's a brother, straight up. He's a Nubian. So, take us back to the nationalization. Is it they call service ceremony, Dr. Hefny? When this white person tells you, "Welcome to America," and now you're white, did he say that with a smile, a twinkle, or was he really serious? And he looked at you as a black person and told you that you were white.
When he said this, he knew that this is wrong. I believe that he knew that this is wrong, doesn't make any sense, but this is the law anyway. So he was following the law.
Did he explain that?
When he told me that.
I guess my question is, did he explain that I'm saying this because this is the law, or is it kind of a smirky way that he did it?
No, he did not explain anything. He's not explaining anything. I told him that I've been black my entire life. I told him that.
And what did he say?
Nothing. He said, from now on, you are white. From now on, when you get a form asking about your race, say that you are white.
Was he firm in that? Was it said with conviction, or he just slyly said it? I'm trying to visualize.
I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. This is the law. He was following the law. He was following the law. And by the way, I wanted to add something. The gentleman who called and said that there is an Egyptian who sued the government and went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to affirm that he is white. This is before Directive Number 15 of the Office of Management and Budget was approved by Congress in 1977. Okay? Because starting 1977, Directive Number 15 classifies North Africans as white. So this man had no problem whatsoever being white. So this happened.
We got some folks who want to talk to you, Dr. Hefny. 800-450-7876. Go to line 2. Let's start at the bottom, line 2. Let's go to Ted in Houston. Ted, you're on with Dr. Hefny.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Hefny and Carl.
Hi. Hello.
I have a question. I am always suspect of scholars who claim Egypt to be our ancestors, but Egyptians and Nubians were always at war. You know, I believe that the Nubians conquered Egypt around the 25th dynasty. But you look at pictures of the battles between Egyptians and Nubians, and there's a distinct difference. The Nubians are very dark people. And the Egyptians, you know, they're dark brown or light brown people. So there are distinct differences, I believe, between Egyptians and Nubians. And can you please expand upon that?
Okay. The Nubians are black people, black Africans, and ancient Egyptians are black Africans. But there are some morphological differences because ancient Egyptians are basically Nubians who moved up north and stayed and lived in Egypt. They came from the south. They were Nubians that moved up north and mixed with the people that were living there and became the ancient Egyptians. Okay, so they are lighter in skin color, but they are still black.
Right, I understand. I understand because I know that Egyptians they rated the Nubians a lot, you know, for their gold and for their knowledge. And from my education, they were distinct differences. And I just wanted to speak on that. I appreciate it, and I'm enjoying your conversation.
All right, thanks, Dad. Thanks for your call. 800-450-7876. Go to line 1. Larry's joining us from D.C. Larry, you're on with Dr. Mostafa.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have 2 questions.
Good morning.
I believe who we call Arabs today in that area, aren't they Ottoman Turk descendants?
No, they are not.
Okay.
They were conquered by the Ottomans In 1605, they were conquered by the Ottoman Empire, and they were ruled by the Ottomans for about 350 years. But they are not Turkish. They're not Turkish. They're Arabs.
Okay. So
wait a second. So where did they come from?
The Turkish, the Ottomans?
Right, the Arabs. Where did the Arabs come from?
The Arabs came from Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Western Iraq, Southern Syria. These are the Arabs.
All right. Larry, your second question?
Okay. Second question. Prior to Judaism, Islam, Christianity, what were our ancestors doing in Egypt? What was our practice, our spiritual practice that we had along the Nile and with Sudan and down to Ethiopia prior to
the ancient Egyptian religion? They worshipped ancient Egyptian gods, and the ancient Egyptian religion was widespread in this region completely, even in Nubia. They worshipped almost the same gods, or very close gods to the gods of ancient Egypt in Nubia. And when Christianity came to Egypt around 60 or 70 AD, all the population converted gradually. By 100, all Egyptians were Christian.
So Nubians now in Aswan, most of those are Christians?
They're Muslim.
Oh, they're Muslims. Okay.
Yes.
Larry?
Okay. Well, I was taught that the religion of Christianity did not spring forth until the 5th century after the Council of Chalcedon. Is that correct?
No. Before that, Apostle Mark was there from the very beginning. After Christ died, Apostle Mark was there preaching and founding the Coptic Church.
But I thought you didn't get a Christ until the Council of Ephesus in 431.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. That's all, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. 800-450-7876. We're 12 away from the top of the hour. Let's go to line 4. Brother Ray's joining us from Miami. Brother Ray? We have Ray Fontway with us? I think we lost Brother Ray. 800-450-7876 to speak to Dr. Hefny. Dr. Hefny, if you had it to do all over now, all the hell that you've been through, that they put you through, and all you have to do is say, I'm white. I'm a white man. And everybody asks you, I'm white. I know you sound crazy, because all of us listening, well, most of us who are black who are listening to this, and they say, you got to be white. We probably wouldn't. And it'd probably be an issue. But after seeing what you went through, you could have had life much easier after you just said, okay, I'll be white. Any regrets?
I would never say that I'm white, because I'm not only a black man, I am an Afrocentric black nationalist. I see everything from an African-centered perspective. I am a black nationalist and Pan-Africanist, because I want to lift up the black man worldwide to the high place he deserves among men. So not only that I'm a black man, I am an Afrocentric black nationalist.
So this is a crusade for you.
Yes.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, tell us how this has impacted your family and your other life, and your life. You know, it's being out there steadfastly saying that you're a black man, even though the United States wants to say that you're white. Folks, you too can join the dialogue with Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Again, that's 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls next as the big show rolls on from the capital city on 1450 WOL. We're in
Real Talk Radio in the AM. Carl Nelson on 1450 WOL.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. I guess it's Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Just want to remind you that Craig Hewlett's going to be here before the end of the week. You know, there's so much stuff going on internationally with Syria and Putin, and now we have Afghanistan, the bombing of that hospital by the United States. Craig Hewlett's going to clear all of that up for us. Also, Renoka Rashidi is going to be here in the next few days. So tell your friends to download the mobile app so they can hear the show live, and they can take it anywhere in the world with them. Just go to WOLDCnews.com, just 1450 WOL. That's how you download that app, and it's free just at the App Store. And then you can check out our podcast, the WOL WOLDCnews.com. Again, for the podcast, if you missed the show or you want to hear more or want to hear it again, it's WOLDCnews.com. Let's go back to our guest, Dr. Mostafa Hefny. And Dr. Hefny, before we left for the break, I was asking you about your family. Do you have a family? And how has this impacted them?
Okay. I have two brothers in this country and two brothers in Egypt. When I first stated that I am black, and I started to catch hell from my employer because of that, they told me not to confront because I have a career to take care of, and I have my PhD to finish, so don't confront them. But gradually, when they saw that I'm standing fast, they became very supportive of me.
Okay, has this made news back in Egypt?
Yes. Yes.
And so what are the Egyptian press? What's the Egyptian media say about this?
One Egyptian newspaper wrote a story about it. One Egyptian newspaper. The largest newspaper.
But are they in agreement with you, or they agreement with the U.S.?
Agreement with me. Because they know that Nubians are black people in Egypt. In Egypt, there are four common categories in Egypt. They're not races, official races. There are no official races in Egypt, okay? No legal categories for race, no governmental category for race, nothing. But there are four racial categories that are informal, unofficial. The black, the Nubians, the blacks, and then the dark, and then the tan, and then the white. The white is not Caucasian, by the way. The whites are not Caucasian, but they are fair-skinned. From their fair skin, this is why they call themselves white, and this is why the others call them whites. But they're not Caucasian.
Were you sort of taken back when you got to the United States and saw that it seems like America's more preoccupied than most countries about race?
Correct. Correct.
Because it doesn't seem like it's a discussion much in the UK or across Europe or on the continent. But it seems like it's a huge discussion here. Well, a huge discussion, correct. A huge debate because nobody wants to talk about it.
Correct. I agree with you.
So where do you go from here? What's next?
The next is two things. Number one, we're going to file a class action lawsuit against the U.S. government to have our racial classification changed from whites to blacks. And number two, I want to get on the 1 million. I want to be one of the speakers at the 1 Million Men March, even for 5 minutes. I've been asking all the activists that I know.
We'll try and hook you up with some people who maybe can make that happen for you. But listen, we got to run. Before we go, okay. How can people get in touch with you?
They can call me at my home number, this number that I gave you.
All right. Can you want to repeat it or for the audience?
Area code 313 878 2076. Again, right. 313-878-2076.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hefny. Thank you for joining us today.